Hello, everybody. Today, once again, I'm going to discuss the topic of Alha Udal and the importance of this ballad in the establishment of some of the facts about road history. For those of you who are unaware, road is a small population that lives in current day North India. They're mostly found in Haryana, where they number about half a million. They also have pockets in western UP and Uttaranchal. In the past, bardic um, descriptions and statements tell us that they also used to live in large numbers in Rajasthan and UP proper, not just Western UP, before the advent of Turks in India. So, for those of you who've watched my channel before, I already made a video on this topic in Hindi, but then I saw that some viewers were not able to understand Hindi and they requested me to make another version in English. So that's why we are here today to discuss almost the same subject matter as in the Hindi video, but the medium here is going to be English. So this is quite an important topic for any scholars of Indian history, especially those who are interested in understanding the politics of North India just prior to the establishment of a Turkic Sultanate in New Delhi. The Delhi in those days, uh, after the fall of the Chauhans of North India. So, the special angle we're going to take to address this topic is through road history. As I said, it's a small population as of today, but genetic studies show that the historical effective population size was actually similar to other tribes that inhabit the area, larger tribes such as Jat and Gurjar. That number in almost millions, multi-millions actually, both of them. Um, so genetic studies, as I said, show that historically roads had an effective population size similar to those groups. So we are going to start this with a reference to Dr. Rajpal Singh. Dr. Rajpal Singh was a historian from the Jat community who studied road history as a part of his PhD and then published a very short synopsis by the title of Glimpses into Road History. It was actually a Hindi publication, and the title in Hindi was Road Itihas Ki Ek Jhalak. So Dr. Rajpal Singh undertook this project with a lot of seriousness, and he actually spoke to bards because bards are essentially a community that have historically kept um, all the records, mostly generation records, like they would record who was your grandfather, then who was your father, and then your name when you're born. But they also have in history keepers in North India before the prevalence of proper history writing, modern history writing, let's say. So, Dr. Rajpal Singh, as I said, see, he spoke to a lot of bards of different castes, not just like not just the bards who um, serve the rural community as of today. He also spoke to bards who visit other communities in the area, and he noted down a lot of material from these bards, and then he expressed his own views about different aspects of whatever the bards told him. So in the bardic notes on the road community, Dr. Rajpal Singh mentions in his glimpses of road history that in the times of Prithviraj Chauhan, there was a road king called Rai Mahalsi. And this Rai Mahalsi, as per what the bards told Dr. Rajpal Singh, was um, somehow associated with Mahoba, and so we are left to wonder what exactly was his association with Mahoba. Uh, so I was trying to find out anything which I could on this topic, and I came across this very famous ballad from the state of Uttar Pradesh in North India, the ballad of Ala and Udal. So, in the ballad of Ala Udal, I was able to find answers to all my questions with respect to Rai Mahalsi. The very first thing I found from Ala Udal about this character was that he belonged to the Pratihar dynasty. So Rai Mahalsi, who was a roar as per the bards, was a Pratihar in terms of dynasty, and I also found that he was the actual owner of Mahoba in the times of Prithviraj Chauhan. But then he was backstabbed by um, his very close confidant, Parmal Chandel. So the historical relationship between Chandels and Pratihars was that the Chandels of Kalinjar used to act as the commanders in chief of Pratihars, of the royal Pratihars. For those who don't know, Pratihars had a large kingdom in North India with its power center at Kannauj, but they were also Avanti branches of Pratihar, for whom as well a lot of coins and inscriptions can be found if one looks into ASI publications. ASI is the Archaeological Survey of India again, for those who don't know. So what I was saying is that Rai Mahalsi, I found him to be a Pratihar on going through Alha Udal, and also he was the actual owner of Mahoba, which the bards actually did not say in the same words to Dr. Rajpal Singh, which was a bit surprising. Once I found out the actual, reality of his relationship with Mahoba. I mean, if he was the ruler of Mahoba, the correct and the lawful ruler of that fort, then the bards need to tell us that. But somehow they missed that detail and try to pass it off as if Mahoba was a Chandel dominion, which it wasn't in reality. So this was my own independent investigation, but then I looked into British era records to see if the British stumbled upon similar conclusion, and yes, they did. When I really looked into it, I found that in various places the British mentioned that the Mahoba fort, when they visited it, uh, they were surprised to see that there were Pratihar quarters. And they tried to dig further into this issue. And when they spoke to the Kaists, the Kaist community in India, they are like scribes. They used to work for the kings in olden times. And the Kaists of Mahoba told the British that this was actually a Pratihar fort, not a Chandel fort. So that essentially establishes the veracity of what I found in my own investigation by comparing the notes from Dr. Rajpal Singh, which he took from the Bards, and Alha Udal, which is a historical ballad from that part of the country. Um, so that's one thing about Rhyme Halsey. So what it implies in terms of greater, like, or rather ramifications for Indian historiography of that age, what it implies is that the Pratihars were Roar, um, and this is further validated um, when we read Henry Bellew's An Inquiry into the Ethnography of Afghanistan, because in that book, An Inquiry into the Ethnography of Afghanistan, Henry Bellew speculated about the origins of various Pathan or Afghan tribes, and many times he actually uh, he compared it to some Indian warrior tribes and tried to say that possibly there has been a movement either from India into Afghanistan or from Afghanistan into India. So while doing that exercise, Henry Bellew, while examining the Nangarhar region, he said about a tribe called Rorak in Nangarhar that this tribe appeared to him to be same as Ror Pratihar. So Bellew, while writing this treatise in 1891, or that's the year it was published, possibly he wrote it before that. So Bellew connects the Pratihar with the Ror, and of course he connects the Ror Pratihar with Rodak tribe in Nangarhar province or Nangarhar region of Afghanistan. And I have nothing against that association because when we recently did genetic analysis of the Roar people, uh, we had a paper that was published in 2018 in the American Journal of Human Genetics, and this paper was called Modern Day Indus Valley Populations of North India. So, during our investigation into these modern day Indus Valley populations, we actually found that the Roar are genetically quite similar to the Pathans. So it's very similar to what we find in Bellew's surmise when he says that Rorak may be synonymous with Ror Pratihar. So genetically, we do see some sort of corroboration of that conclusion of Bellew's. Um, so that was about genetics. Then moving on to Rayam Halsey Pratihar again, because we've not yet finished the story. So as I said, Alha Udal, the ballad gives us a hint that he was the real owner. So once again, for those of you who are curious to read the passages that convinced me about this, then I'll ask you to refer to Gita Press Gorakhpur. So Gita Press Gorakhpur has published a version of Ala Udal which I was able to read, and reading which I came to these conclusions. So anybody else who's interested can refer to Gita Press Gorakhpur's Ala Udal. So So Ala Udal, as I said, tells us that Rai Mahal Pratihar was the ruler of Mahoba, rightful ruler of Mahoba. And what happened to him was that Parmal Chandel um, uh, actually cornered him one day when Rai Mahal Pratihar was outside the Mahoba fort. Parmal cornered him along with Banafars. So they were these Banafar warriors, Ala and Udu, who were really fond of Parmal. So together they cornered Rai Mahal Pratihar, and then Parmal made him promise to um, give Rai Mahal's sister's hand to him in marriage. And in dowry, he asked for the Mahoba fort. So this was a big, uh, a very big backstab in a way, because as I said some time ago, Chandels were the hereditary and traditional commanders in chiefs of Pratihars, and here he simply um, exploited his weakness, like his Pratihar overlord's weakness. Like when he found him alone, he made him give these promises, and as well as his sister's hand to him. So he also asked him to vacate Mahoba fort and relocate to a small fortress in Orai. Orai is a place close to Jalon in present-day Uttar Pradesh. So Rai Mahalsi had to vacate Mahoba and relocate to Orai. After reaching Orai, Rai Mahalsi wrote a letter to Prithviraj Chauhan, who was the ruler of Delhi, the Chauhan ruler of Delhi in those days. And he described to Chauhan what had befallen him. Now, if we take a step back, actually, this might all have a deeper um, political background, because we need to understand that originally Kannauj was a bastion of Pratihars, but the time we are speaking about when um, Rai Mahalsi was found to be weak by his Chandel commanders. Around that time, Kannauj already had a new lineage ruling, and that was the Gahedwalas. So we had Jaichand Gahedwala, who was the king of Kannauj in this era, and it's probable that Jaichand wanted to make Pratihars even weaker, because he might have had a fear that if Pratihars grew strong again in the future, they might once again claim Kannauj. So that could have been one background. As a part of it, Jaichand might have plotted what happened to Rai Mahalsi Pratihar. Like Jaichand might have got the Chandels and the Banafars to go against their overlord, because Pratihars were the overlords of Chandels and Banafars historically before that point. So, with that background in mind, let's keep going with our narrative, reconstruction of history. So Rai Mahalsi Pratihar, who as per bards, like let's reconnect it, as per the bards, was a ruler in the times of Prithviraj. On relocating to Ori, wrote a letter to Prithviraj and told him about his circumstances and asked for his help to reclaim Mahoba. Uh, and Prithviraj actually wrote a letter back to him. This letter, um, the British managed to find a copy of it from the very original recension of Prithviraj Raso, and nowadays I have been told that that recension is not available. There are some newer recensions, but they may not have exactly the letter that I'm now describing here. So Prithviraj wrote a letter to Rai Mahal Se Pratihar saying, "Maha ke thake road sab," which means for me and you, like we are all roads. So I am definitely going to help you. That's what Prithviraj Chauhan wrote to Rai Mahal Se Pratihar. So this letter is actually a very important letter to understand, as I said, the politics of North India around that time. So from here, we are able to see that there was this power um, which completely got dismantled after the Turkic invasions, but there was this power of the rural community around in North India around that time, and the bards say that it was derived from 52 forts. So these people had 52 forts. We know Prithviraj sat in Delhi and he wrote this letter. So Delhi, Ajmer, Mahoba, where Rai Mahal Si Pratihar was. Similarly, Kannauj, because Kannauj was also originally Pratihar capital. So we can see few of those 52 forts right here. Some of the others have been found in excavations. Very recently, close to the year 2000, Revant Vikram Singh from the Archaeological Survey of India was doing a survey in the Hindon River area, and near Bagpat he found a fort, and the local people described it as Palta Hua Tila, that is the upturned fort. And when Revant Vikram Singh investigated further, the locals also said that this fort was originally ruled by a road ruler. So once again, same 52 fort, perhaps one of the 52 forts, which might have been destroyed and then got covered by earth or sand after Turkic attacks, possibly. In the last 800 years or so, it might have got submerged under the earth. Um, so that was Revant Vikram Singh's find close to Bagpat. Then another fort which has been found in excavations is the Kagarol fort, which was found by Cunningham in the 1870s. Cunningham and his very able assistant Carlyle. So once again, they found on talking to the local people there that this Kagarol is a corruption of Kaga and Road. So Kaga means crow, Road is the same people we're talking about. So from Kaga Road it became Kagarol. And the people said that once again there was a road ruler here, like historically. So that might have been part of the same 52 forts. Then when we also look at other forts in present-day Uttar Pradesh, Pratapgarh in the past used to be called Aror, so that could also have been a part of the 52 forts. So in Alha Udal again we find validation for this 52 fort testimony of the bards, because in the ballad once again there is a entire sequence where Ala's wife wants to visit Hardwar for Kumbh. A Kumbh is a 12-year occurrence uh, on the Ganga River in North India. So every 12 years in Hardwar or in Ujjain, or there are several other places. Um, there are these auspicious times when Hindus go and take a bath in the river Ganga. Um, uh, yeah, and these are really auspicious occasions which every devout Hindu likes to, when every devout Hindu likes to visit these sacred places. So even in those times, like this is a great ballad because it also shows that this taking a bath at Kumbh in Hardwar is really an ancient thing in India. So once again, coming back to the narrative, Ala's wife wanted to go to Hardwar to take a bath in the Ganga, and at that time Udal said to her that uh, uh, it's really dangerous for us to visit Hardwar because uh, all the 52 fort warriors are going to be there, and if any of them recognize us, it might turn into a bad situation for us. So, once again, why were Ala and Udal scared of 52 fort warriors? It's because of what they had done together with Parmal Chandel to Rai Mahalsi. So the Pratihars were a part of the 52 fort alliance, same as the Chauhans, due to which Prithviraj even said that he'll help out Rai Mahalsi Pratihar when the latter asked for Prithviraj's help. So, and again, let's tie it into the bardic narrative of the roads because the bards say, they say, first of all, they say that Rai Mahalsi was a road king in Prithviraj's time, and the second thing they say is the roads had 52 forts in that era. So, same thing, Alha Udal also talked about it, 52 forts. So this is the second facet of road history that Ala and Udal seems to verify. The ballad seems to verify. Oh, the other hint we get from here is that Hardwar must have been really accessible for these people. So this community of warriors would have um, possibly lived uh, in the Ganga plains. As we said, Kannauj, Mahoba, Kagarol, the fort found near Agra, Paltahwatila near Bagpat, Hardwar, where Alauddin say it's really easy for these people to visit. So Delhi, where Prithviraj was sitting at Mehroli. So all this area, the Ganga Yamuna belt, Hindon, um, it was possibly the home ground for these people in that era. So now coming to the next conclusion based on what we've discussed. So we've seen that on the basis of Prithviraj's letter to Rai Mahalsi Pratihar, it appears that both Prithviraj Chauhan or the Chauhans, the royal Chauhans as well as Pratihars, had affiliation to this road community. Um, we also need to see if the Tomars, who were the other hereditary overlords of Delhi, if they had something to do with this community. Because if it is so, then we'll get a lot of validation in terms of understanding the role of this community in the politics of North India in the pre-Turkic era. And for this last part, um, the evidence we've obtained is quite recent, like maybe even 5 years ago. Uh, it wasn't that well known, but recently there is a village in western UP of the Roars who had the bards visiting them, and the people of this village just started asking the bards to go a bit further back, and the bards actually stopped at Anangpal Tomar because they said that Anangpal Tomar's son was the founder of the surname found in this village. So this is a big find because This essentially shows that even Tomers were marrying into the Roar community. That means there was again a Roar association with not just the Pratihars and Chauhans, but also with the Tomers. So there is a chance that since the times of uh, the Kuru Vansh, like the Kauravas and Pandavas of Mahabharata era, uh, Indraprastha or Delhi or Delhi was being continuously ruled by the same people, because roads are found in the Kuru area from where the Kurus and Pandavas were, and not just that, multiple road villages are up to this date associated with either the Kauravas or the Pandavas. For example, Dhatrath, which comes from Dhritarashtra, that's one road village that is direct connection with the Kuru Vansh or the Kuru dynasty. Then Amin, which is originally Abhimanyupur, that's another one, um, that's related to the Pandavas. So something really interesting uh, is being observed when we are trying to reconstruct the history of these people. And once again, I'll request all of you to leave comments and ask if you have any further questions. That's all for today. Um, but yes, if you do want me to make more videos, and or if you want me to explain some of the things I talked about in greater detail, then please let me know in the comments below. Thank you.